A month ago, I found out Mike was sleeping with my best friend, Chloe. So I divorced him. A month later, Chloe came to me and handed me a wedding invitation. Lena, she cooed. Thank you for leaving. Mike's company is going public now, and I can't even imagine how happy I'll be after marrying him. I smiled and nodded, taking the invitation. After all, if he hadn't cheated, I wouldn't be the wife of the city's wealthiest man now. All right, I'll be there. I'll make sure to bring you a generous gift. I smiled as I took the gold-embossed wedding invitation, my fingertips lightly tracing its surface. Chloe's face was beaming, her undisguised, triumphant smile practically overflowing. I'm truly happy for you, I said, my voice as calm as a deep pool. After all, it takes a lot of courage to pick up someone else's discards. Chloe's smile faltered for a moment, but quickly returned to a smug smirk. Lena, stop being so stubborn. A man like Mike is beyond your grasp. Oh, and by the way, she stepped closer, lowering her voice, a hint of malicious pity in her tone. There's something Mike always made me keep from you, but now it seems harmless to tell you. About the baby I lost. Mike said he was actually relieved. He was swamped with the company going public at the time and thought the child would have been an unwelcome burden. My heart felt as if it had been brutally squeezed by an icy hand, suddenly stopping. That tiny life, which had only stayed in my womb for 10 weeks, was an unhealed wound deep in my heart. I had initially thought Mike's silence was due to similar grief, a strong facade. But no, it was relief, and they had already been involved with each other by then. The color drained from my face instantly, but my back remained ramrod straight. I looked at her, my eyes devoid of the breakdown she expected, replaced instead by a near-cruel coldness. Are you done? If so, please leave. My driver will be here soon, and I don't want him to misunderstand me as conversing with unsavory characters. Chloe, intimidated by my gaze and the barb in my words, scoffed and turned, walking away on her heels. I stood rooted to the spot, allowing myself to tremble slightly only after her figure disappeared around the street corner. I looked down at the invitation, Mike and Chloe's names written side by side like two poison daggers. Just then, a sleek, luxurious black sedan silently glided to a stop beside me. The window rolled down, revealing a handsome yet detached face, my new husband, Ethan. Trouble? His voice was low, devoid of any emotional fluctuation. I opened the door and got in, tossing the invitation onto the seat as if it were something dirty. Nothing. Just received a wedding invitation from my ex-husband. Ethan's gaze swept over the invitation, then returned to my face, sharp as an eagle's. You're not yourself. What did he do? I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and when I opened them again, only a resolute, cold glint remained. He reminded me that some people don't deserve any mercy. I recounted Chloe's words, my voice eerily calm, as if speaking of someone else's story. Ethan listened in silence, his fingers lightly tapping the steering wheel. After I finished, he simply said 3 words, understood. Mike and Chloe's wedding was held at the ballroom at the Astoria. Glasses clinked. Guests filled every seat, every detail showcasing their so-called success and happiness. I wore a sharply tailored, dark blue velvet gown. Its color was understated, but its texture was utterly luxurious, a stark contrast to the soft, light-colored dresses worn by others. I didn't wear much jewelry, just 2 exceptionally clear diamond earrings adorning my earlobes, shimmering with a cool light under the lamps. I came alone. Ethan had dropped me off, saying only, "I'll pick you up when it's over." Before leaving, I knew this was my battle alone. As soon as I entered, I felt gazes from all directions, sympathy, curiosity, and mostly, schadenfreude. Ignoring them, I walked straight to a corner seat. During the ceremony, Mike and Chloe exchanged vows on stage, their voices affected, their eyes constantly scanning the audience, seemingly searching for my reaction. I maintained a polite smile throughout, even applauding softly when they kissed. After the reception began, Chloe, arm in arm with Mike, surrounded by a crowd, strutted towards me like a peacock displaying its feathers. Her wedding dress was covered in rhinestones, glittering blindingly under the lights. "Lena, you actually came. I thought you'd be too embarrassed." Chloe's voice was sickeningly sweet. "Alone? Well, it's not easy for a divorced woman to find someone else, is it?" Mike stood beside her, his face a mix of false contrition and barely concealed smugness. "Lena, let bygones be bygones. Thank you for coming to wish us well today. If you have any difficulties in life, you can tell me. After all, he didn't finish his sentence, but his condescending demeanor was obvious enough. The surroundings quieted down, everyone pricking up their ears, waiting for me to be humiliated. I picked up the champagne glass from the table, swirled it lightly, but didn't drink. Difficulties? I chuckled softly, my gaze calmly sweeping over them. Indeed, a minor one. I'm considering the new development site on the east side, wondering if it's suitable for building a private art gallery. My husband thinks my previous art studio was too small. You see. Husband? Chloe caught the word, her smile instantly freezing, replaced by incredulous mockery. You got married again? So quickly? And who might this young talent be? She emphasized young talent, implying I could only find someone insignificant. Mike also frowned, clearly thinking I was bluffing. Just then, a small stir rippled through the ballroom entrance. Ethan, in a black suit with an exceptional aura, walked in unhurriedly, led by a bowing hotel manager. His gaze pierced through the crowd, landing precisely on me. Then he walked directly towards me. All eyes in the room were focused on him. Some had already recognized him. Low gasps and the title Mr. Hayes rising in a continuous murmur. Ethan reached my side, naturally putting an arm around my waist. His voice gentle yet loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Everything's handled. Have you been waiting long? His gaze lightly swept over Mike and Chloe, who stood frozen, as if they were just two irrelevant decorations. I leaned into him, offering a faint smile to the pale-faced duo in front of me, and introduced. Chloe, Mike, allow me to formally introduce you to my husband, Ethan. Ethan? Mike blurted out, the color instantly draining from his face. His struggling small company, on the verge of going public, was less than an ant before Ethan's business empire. Chloe was so stunned her lips parted slightly, the wine glass in her hand trembling. So you're Mike, Ethan said, his tone perfectly level, merely stating a fact. Lena has mentioned you. Congratulations. His congratulations held no warmth, sounding more like a pronouncement. Without another word, he simply lowered his head and asked me, ready to go home now? I nodded, pulled out a beautifully packaged small gift box from my clutch, and handed it to Chloe. I said I'd bring you a generous gift. I wish you both a happy married life. With that, I linked my arm through Ethan's and calmly walked away amidst the hall's silence and countless shocked, envious, and probing glances. Behind me, I heard Chloe eagerly tearing open the gift box, followed by a stifled gasp. Inside wasn't anything valuable, but the cheap earring I'd found in the hotel room when I discovered their affair. An earring that belonged to Chloe. I had also thoughtfully included a note with a single line printed on it, returning what's yours. Keep a close eye on your man. Old habits die hard. After all, as expected, the drama at the wedding quickly spread through our small circle. I received several roundabout calls from my fair-weather friends, their voices brimming with awe and curiosity about the title Mrs. Hayes. I politely fended them all off with private matters. Not much to say. The calm was shattered a week later. My personal cell phone rang, displaying the number I once knew by heart, Mike's. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, a cold smile playing on my lips, then pressed the answer button without speaking first. Lena? Mike's voice held a forced, yet unmistakably awkward intimacy. It's me, Mike. Can I help you? My voice was as distant as if I were answering a sales call. Could we, perhaps, meet? There's a business matter I'd like to discuss with you, he added eagerly. It's about my company going public. I think perhaps we could cooperate. It would benefit you and Mr. Hayes. Cooperate? I almost laughed out loud. He actually had the nerve, the audacity, to come to me to talk about cooperation. I'm very busy, Mike, and I don't think there's any business for us to discuss. Don't be like this, Lena. He panicked, his voice carrying a subtle hint of pleading, yet still maintaining his old arrogance. I know I wronged you in the past, but I'm really in a tough spot now. After the wedding, several investors we'd already secured started acting ambiguously. They must have heard about you and Mr. Hayes. For the sake of our past, please help me. It would be a small favor for you. Our past? I repeated the word softly, as if tasting something vile. Is there still such a thing between us? Lena. His voice deepened, edged with exasperation. Do you have to be so ruthless? Even if you're Mrs. Hayes now, helping me would only benefit you, not harm you. I can give you company shares. Their value will double after going public. You just need to have Mr. Hayes mention my company favorably on certain occasions. See, that was Mike. Always prioritizing his own interests, always believing others should help him as a given. Even his pleas came with calculations and demands for exchange. Yet he couldn't see that he had long lost any bargaining chips. I remained silent, listening to his heavy breathing on the other end of the line, imagining his anxious and desperate expression. After a while, just as he was about to speak again, I spoke, my voice devoid of emotion, time and place. He seemed not to have expected me to agree, freezing for a moment before ecstatically rattling off the address and time of an upscale cafe. All right, I said, then hung up directly. On the day of the meeting, I still wore simple yet valuable clothes and drove there alone. Mike was already there when I arrived, his coffee barely touched, clearly in a state of extreme anxiety. Seeing me enter, he immediately stood up, his face breaking into a somewhat stiff smile, trying to act as familiar as in the past. Lena, you're here. I sat down, ordered a glass of water, and cut straight to the chase. All right, what exactly did you have in mind for cooperation? He rubbed his hands, leaned forward, and lowered his voice. It's simple. I know Mr. Hayes has a tech subsidiary, and our businesses overlap. As long as he becomes a strategic investor in our company, even just symbolically investing a small amount, or merely mentioning at an industry forum that he's optimistic about our company's prospects, market confidence will instantly return. Going public would be a sure thing. The more he spoke, the more excited he became, his eyes gleaming as if he'd already seen the dawn of success. Lena, this is nothing for Mr. Hayes, but for me, it's a lifeline. If it works out, I can give you 10% phantom shares. I listened quietly, my finger lightly tapping the glass, producing a faint, crisp sound. Mike, I interrupted his reverie, my voice soft, yet it instantly silenced him. Have you forgotten who is responsible for everything you have now, the startup capital for the company you're so eager to take public? Its first major client? His face suddenly changed. It was my premarital savings, and my father's early connections, I said, staring into his eyes, enunciating each word. And you, after using all of that, after getting my best friend pregnant, you think that by giving me a few shares that don't even exist yet, I should be grateful and then use my current husband to help you climb even higher? My voice was calm, devoid of anger, only a cold statement, but this shamed him more than any rebuke. His face flushed, then paled, his hand on the table clenching into a fist. I was wrong about the past, but I'm talking business with you now. Lena, you need to look forward. This is a win-win for both of us. A win-win? I laughed, my smile utterly devoid of warmth. Your win comes from trampling on my dignity and my past. And what do I get by helping you? A few shares I don't care about, and watching someone who betrayed and hurt me live a better life? I stood up, picked up my clutch, and looked down at his face, now stark white with dashed hope. I heard your request, I said deliberately. I'll consider it. With that, I didn't look back at his eyes, which had brightened momentarily then filled with uncertainty, and turned to leave. As expected, Mike's attempt to discuss cooperation with me didn't escape Chloe's notice. Or perhaps Mike intentionally or unintentionally let it slip, hoping to use her to pressure me, as Chloe was adept at stirring up trouble. This time, Chloe didn't choose a public place but instead found me near Ethan's estate. As I returned from a preparatory meeting for my private art exhibition and was walking towards my front door, she emerged from the shadow of a nearby ornamental tree, blocking my path. In just a month, the radiance on her face from the wedding had faded considerably, her eyes showing fatigue and uncontainable anxiety. And even her carefully applied makeup couldn't hide the resentment. Lena, we need to talk. Her tone was forceful, an accusatory stance. I stopped, calmly looking at her. Is there anything left for us to talk about? Don't play dumb. She took a step closer, her voice sharp. Did come to see you? I'm warning you, Lena, you're Mrs. Hayes now, so stop clinging to another woman's husband. Stay away from him. I almost applauded her twisted logic. He came to me, begging for my help. If you're capable of keeping your man in check, then don't let him run around like a headless chicken. My tone was indifferent. As for clinging? You're the one who picked up trash and considered it a treasure, not me. You. Chloe's face went pale with anger, her chest heaving violently. What she couldn't stand the most was my utter disdain. She took a deep breath, as if bringing out her last resort, and pulled out her cell phone from her clutch. The screen, turned towards me, showed a blurry screenshot, seemingly from a surveillance video, vaguely depicting a man and a woman arguing, the woman's back somewhat resembling mine. "Don't push me," she hissed, her voice low and threatening. "I know your status is different now, and you care about your reputation. I have hysterical recordings of you arguing with Mike from the past, and all those crazy things you said when you broke down after my miscarriage. If I put these online, saying you have mental issues and an extreme personality, I wonder whether you could hold on to your position as Mrs. Hayes." I looked at the blurry, so-called evidence on her phone screen, then at her face, twisted with agitation, and felt only a wave of sorrow for the person I once was who had genuinely cared for her, and for her current ridiculous, desperate state. "Chloe," I sighed softly, a sigh devoid of anger, filled only with utter contempt. "Do you know what your biggest problem is?" She froze. "You always live in your own imagination. Do you really think I care about the empty prestige that comes with the title Mrs. Hayes? Do you think such despicable tactics can threaten me?" I took a step forward, close enough to see the panic in her eyes. "Go ahead and post them. You can try. Let's see if your video clip spreads faster, or if Ethan's legal team moves faster. Defamation, invasion of privacy, and damage to reputation. You can calculate how much you'd owe and how long you'd spend in jail." My voice was soft, yet it pierced her heart like an ice pick. The hand holding her phone began to tremble slightly, and I continued, my gaze sweeping over her expensive bag and jewelry. "You'd better pray Mike's company goes public successfully so you can maintain this false prosperity. Because if he harasses me one more time, or if I hear any more gossip about me." I paused, watching her pupils contract sharply, then clearly uttered the last few words. "I wouldn't mind seeing him. And you lose everything. I always keep my word." With that, I didn't look back at her pale face, walked around her, and headed directly for my front door. The security staff, having already noticed the situation, silently stepped forward and politely but firmly stopped Chloe, who had tried to follow. Mike and Chloe quieted down for a while. I didn't let my guard down. I knew that cornered rats always devise the most insidious schemes. Sure enough, the storm broke on a night I was completely unprepared. Ethan had an important business gala, which I attended as his companion. Everything went smoothly. We were still the center of attention. It wasn't until halfway through the dinner that Ethan's personal assistant approached, his face grave, and whispered a few words in his ear. The smile faded from Ethan's face, his eyes instantly sharpening. He glanced at me, his gaze complex and hard to decipher, scrutiny, a faint hint of suspicion. "What's wrong?" My heart tightened, but I maintained my composure as I asked. He didn't answer immediately, simply nodded to his assistant, then quietly told me, "I have something urgent to handle. You go home first." He had the driver take me home, while he and his assistant left first. That feeling of being excluded made my unease rapidly spread. Back home, I waited restlessly in the living room for nearly 2 hours before Ethan returned. His face was cold, a kind of icy stillness I'd never seen before, tinged with suppressed anger. He placed a tablet on the coffee table in front of me. The screen was lit, displaying an email sent anonymously to several of Ethan's important business partners and company board members. The email's title was shocking: "Ethan's new Lena colludes with ex-husband to steal business." The content was extremely malicious. It didn't make direct accusations but rather listed facts in a seemingly objective tone. It detailed my secret meeting with Mike at the cafe, accompanied by cunningly angled candid photos, in which Mike appeared eager, and I, due to the angle, looked to be listening intently. It claimed that during my marriage to Mike, I was deeply involved in his company's operations, fully aware of its technical details and network of contacts. It implied that my motive for marrying Ethan was impure, and warned recipients to note that Mike's company's current difficulties might be a scheme orchestrated by Ethan and me, with the purpose of having me help my ex-husband at a low price, essentially transferring assets and harming the Hayes' interests. It even included a forged screenshot of a confidential information transfer record with my blurry electronic signature. This email was a treacherous mix of truth and falsehood, with sinister logic. It cleverly used my past with Mike and our recent meeting to weave a seemingly plausible story of betrayal. What was particularly vicious was that it could also implicate Ethan, suggesting his knowledge or even involvement, which directly touched upon Ethan's core interests and bottom line, his business reputation and absolute control over his company. "Do you have anything to say?" Ethan's voice was calm, But the calmer it was, the more I felt the turbulent undercurrent beneath. A chill rose from my feet. This wasn't simple humiliation. This was an attempt to completely destroy everything I had with Ethan, to ruin my credibility and this newly formed, still fragile marriage. This is slander. I forced myself to calm down, meeting his gaze. Mike and I met because he came to beg me for cooperation. I refused him. I told you this at the time. As for the rest, it's pure fabrication. I know it's a smear campaign. Ethan's words offered a slight reprieve, but his next sentence made my heart pound again. But in the business world, sometimes the truth isn't what matters. It's what people are willing to believe. This email was sent at a precise time to precise recipients, and it has already sparked some discussion within the board. He walked to the window, his back to me, and said in a low voice, "I need a clear explanation, and I need you to work with me to resolve this quickly. I don't want my wife to become a weapon others can use against me. Not even a potential one." I understood what he meant. He trusted me, but as the head of Hayes, he couldn't simply suppress all dissenting voices based on trust alone. He needed me to prove my innocence, and even more, to demonstrate my ability to fight alongside him and solve crises, rather than just bringing him trouble. This move by Mike and Chloe had indeed struck a critical blow. They were no longer fixated on private emotions but had directly shifted the battlefield to the commercial arena, which Ethan valued most, attempting to fundamentally destabilize my position. I picked up the tablet, meticulously reviewing the email again, the chill in my heart gradually replaced by a more resolute fury. They want to play? Then I'll play to the very end. Give me 2 days. I stood up and walked to Ethan's side, my voice decisive. Within 2 days, I will find proof that this is a false accusation, expose the mastermind, and provide an explanation to you and everyone who received that email. Ethan turned around, his deep gaze falling upon my face, scrutinizing me. Finally, he nodded slowly. "All right. Tell my assistant whatever resources you need." The smear email spread silently like a gas bomb within Ethan's business circles. Although I had used his influence to temporarily suppress its public dissemination, the private whispers and doubts could not be eradicated. Several important board members explicitly voiced concerns about potential risks, and Ethan was under considerable pressure. I could feel the subtle shift in the atmosphere at home. Ethan remained busy, but when he spoke to me, there was a noticeable, business-like distance. He was waiting for my explanation. I wasn't going to sit back and do nothing. I contacted Ethan's assistant and secured the resources he allowed me to access, a team skilled in cyber tracking and information analysis. Simultaneously, I calmed myself and meticulously reviewed the entire situation. Mike and Chloe, one consumed by greed, the other by bitter jealousy. This email, with its meticulous logic and blend of truth and falsehood, didn't seem like something they could have hastily put together. There might have been an expert guiding them, or they had paid a significant price. Just then, my cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered, and it was Chloe on the other end, her voice filled with an uncontrollable, almost frantic glee. "Lena, did you get our gift? Is your position as Mrs. Hayes still comfortable?" She cackled. "Did you think marrying into a wealthy family meant you had it made? Let me tell you, the higher you climb, the harder you fall. Will still believe you now? Will his partners even look at you straight?" I tightened my grip on the phone, but my voice remained unusually steady. "Chloe, do you know the legal consequences of forging business documents and spreading defamatory statements? Law?" She sneered. "Do you have proof? The email is anonymous. As for that evidence, who can prove it's fake? Lena, aren't you experiencing the taste of being utterly unable to defend yourself right now? Let me tell you, this isn't enough. If you don't agree to help Mike, there's more excitement to come." Her words confirmed my suspicions. They indeed had a backup plan, intending to coerce me through continuous threats, or simply to watch me fall from grace. I wasn't provoked by her. Instead, I seized upon crucial information. They were confident I couldn't find evidence, and they were still actively working against me. After hanging up, I immediately instructed the analysis team to focus on any large recent outflows of funds from Mike, and his connections with individuals or organizations capable of creating such professional smear materials, such as certain gray area consulting firms or hackers. At the same time, I made a decision. I walked into Ethan's study. He was in a video conference, and the faces of several board members on the screen looked serious. I stood quietly by the door until his meeting ended. "Something wrong?" He took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose, unable to hide his exhaustion. I need you to play a part with me, I said, looking directly into his eyes. He raised an eyebrow, signaling me to continue. Mike and Chloe believe their scheme has succeeded. They just called, threatening me with more tricks up their sleeve. I think we can make them believe that a rift has indeed formed between us. I analyzed calmly. For example, you could temporarily freeze some of my access, or we could act coldly towards each other in public. When they become complacent, they're bound to make their next move or deploy their hidden resources. And that's when we'll catch them. Ethan watched me in silence, his gaze sharp, as if evaluating the feasibility and risks of my plan. You're trying to lure them out, he stated. Yes, I admitted frankly. Passive defense will only allow them to keep shooting arrows from the shadows. Only by getting them to move can we find their weaknesses and strike a decisive blow. And, I paused. This is also the fastest way to prove to the board that I'm not just trouble, but that I can help you solve problems. The study was silent for a moment. Ethan's gaze shifted from my face to the window. And finally, he nodded, a hint of imperceptible approval in his voice. All right, do as you say. I'll have my assistant cooperate with you. Let me know when you need me to make an appearance. The plan began. Ethan canceled a charity gala he was supposed to attend with me. I went alone. In front of the media, I maintained my smile, but attentive observers could discern a hint of forced cheerfulness and loneliness in my expression. Meanwhile, Ethan, when casually questioned by reporters at another business event, coldly dismissed the matter with private affairs. No comment. As expected, these tidbits, meticulously orchestrated, reached Mike and Chloe. Their provocations escalated. This time, Mike personally sent me a message. No longer pleading, but with the arrogance of a victor. Lena, do you see now who you can truly rely on? Come back to me. Help me get Ethan's development plans for the new development site on the east side. I can wipe the slate clean regarding the past, and I might even consider taking you back. Mike's company's IPO process, after its previous setbacks, had miraculously gotten back on track. Behind this, naturally, were the subtle conciliatory signals Ethan had intentionally or unintentionally sent out after coldly handling the smear email, leading them to mistakenly believe their threats had worked and the internal rift was successful. They eagerly held a lavish pre-IPO celebration party, reserving the hotel's most opulent ballroom and inviting nearly all the business elite, aiming to rebuild their image and display their strength. Ethan and I were also among the invited, undoubtedly, their triumphant attempt to witness our estrangement firsthand. Before the dinner, I put on a striking crimson gown that Ethan had specially chosen for me, its intense color exuding an undeniable presence. He, as always, wore a refined black suit. Before we left, he adjusted my necklace, his fingertips brushing my collarbone gently. Ready? He asked softly. I met his gaze, seeing complete trust and a hidden sharpness in his deep eyes. Ready, I said, linking my arm with his, sharing a smile. All barriers dissolved in the unspoken understanding of facing our enemies together. At the celebration party, the lights were dazzling, the hall buzzing with voices. Mike and Chloe stood in the center of the venue, radiant, accepting congratulations from everyone. Chloe wore a glittering silver gown, like a triumphant mermaid. Seeing us enter hand in hand, her smile froze for a moment. Then she exaggerated it even more, approaching us with Mike. Mr. Hayes, Lena, how wonderful of you to grace us with your presence. Mike, holding a champagne flute, was flushed with success, looking at me with undisguised provocation and a self-righteous pity. Of course, we had to be here for such an important occasion, Ethan replied coolly, his tone unreadable. Chloe leaned in with a false smile, speaking in a voice only we could hear. What? Made up? It seems Mr. Hayes is truly magnanimous, but a broken mirror can be pieced back together. Yet the cracks always remain, don't they? I looked at her, smiled faintly, and said nothing. That smile made her take a nervous half-step back. As the banquet reached its peak, the host invited Mike to the stage to give a speech. He confidently walked up, took the microphone, and began effusively recounting his entrepreneurial hardships and bright future. At this critical moment of the company going public, I want to especially thank my wife, Chloe, for always being by my side, supporting and encouraging me. He gazed tenderly at the audience. Just then, all the large screens in the ballroom, including the giant main screen on the stage, abruptly changed. It displayed photos of Mike and Chloe arguing outside the cafe, the original smear email, a screenshot of the arrogant message Mike had sent me, and even a short, Edited audio clip. It was a conversation between Mike and the hacker who forged the documents, mentioning Chloe's knowledge and approval. Audio. Mike, you have to make it look real. So Ethan suspects her. Hacker, the price is fine, but the risk. Mike, what's there to be afraid of? As long as Ethan doesn't believe her, she'll have to come back begging me. Chloe also said this is the fastest way to ruin her. Audio. The hall erupted in an uproar. Mike stood on stage, microphone in hand, his face deathly pale, his lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. Chloe screamed from the audience, trying to cover the screens, but it was futile. The lighting technician, with perfect timing, cast a spotlight on Ethan and me. Arm in arm with Ethan, I walked step by step towards the stage. Ethan took the microphone from the MC. His voice, amplified, filled the entire venue. Calm, authoritative, and imbued with undeniable power. It appears, Mr. Mike, that your success was built upon fabricating evidence and malicious slander. His gaze swept across the astonished guests, finally resting on Mike, whose face was ashen, regarding the email slandering my wife, and Mr. Mike's attempt to steal my company's trade secrets. The Hayes' legal team has prepared all the evidence. First thing tomorrow morning, we will officially file a lawsuit. He paused, then looked at me, his eyes softening but remaining equally resolute. Furthermore, I officially announce that the Hayes will terminate all potential collaboration intentions with Mr. Mike's company, and I, personally, along with my wife Lena, will file civil lawsuits for defamation against Mike and MS. Chloe, we will pursue this to the very end. I stepped forward, taking the microphone from Ethan. My gaze calmly met Chloe's, who was almost collapsing to the floor. Chloe, my voice was clear and steady. You once asked me if being Mrs. Hayes was comfortable. I paused, feeling Ethan's silent support beside me, and said each word distinctly. I'm telling you now, it's very comfortable, because I, sitting in this position, am upright and honorable. As for you, you're only fit to look up at my new beginning from the mud. With that, I handed the microphone back to the MC, linked arms with Ethan, and calmly turned, leaving the ballroom. What they intended as a celebration but was, in reality, their downfall under the gaze of an audience filled with pity, disdain, or awe. Behind us, Mike's furious roars and Chloe's desperate cries echoed, alongside the sound of the entire business world closing its doors on them. The pre-IPO celebration party incident swept through the business community like a tsunami. The group's lawsuit acted like a precise sniper shot. Mike's company's IPO plans were indefinitely postponed. Major investors withdrew their funds. Banks called in loans, and partners swiftly severed ties. Overnight, everything he had painstakingly built collapsed, leaving him burdened with heavy debt. Ethan's and my life returned to peace, becoming even more harmonious than before. The process of facing the crisis together had been like a crucible, forging an unspoken understanding and trust between us. One afternoon, approximately 2 weeks after the storm had settled, I was reading alone in their sunroom at home. The butler placed an intercom call, his tone a little hesitant. Madam, there's a gentleman at the door, insisting on seeing you. He says his name is Mike, and he looks unwell. I paused for a few seconds. What was destined to come, always would. Let him in. Have him wait for me in the drawing room. I put down my book, straightened my clothes, and calmly walked towards the drawing room. I hadn't dressed up, just my usual loungewear. Yet it was enough to create a stark contrast with the person I was about to meet. Mike stood in the center of the drawing room, his back to me. In just 2 weeks, he seemed to have aged 10 years. His once straight back was now hunched, his expensive suit wrinkled, his hair disheveled, and he exuded an aura of decay. Hearing my footsteps, he spun around abruptly. His face was bloodshot, his eyes filled with an unbearable mix of panic, remorse, and a hint of desperation. Lena, he began, his voice hoarse and dry, barely audible. I didn't speak. I simply walked to the sofa and sat down, calmly watching him, waiting for him to continue. The pressure of the silence made him even more uncomfortable. He nervously rubbed his hands, avoiding my gaze, his eyes darting across the elaborate patterns on the rug. I was wrong, he finally choked out, sounding utterly broken. Lena, I was truly wrong. I'm a terrible person. I was obsessed. Chloe and I, that bitch, we shouldn't have treated you like that, and we certainly shouldn't have slandered you afterwards. He began to ramble, confessing his regret, blaming Chloe's manipulation, and complaining about life's unfairness. I have nothing left now. My company is ruined. My house and cars have been seized. I'm drowning in debt. Lena, for the sake of our past, please help me. Please. I beg you. Talk to Mr. Hayes. Let me off this time. Drop the lawsuit. Okay? Give me a way out. I'll do anything for you to repay you. As he spoke, his legs gave out, and he thumped onto the carpet before me. The man I once loved, the man who used to stand before me with such pride and arrogance, was now kneeling at my feet like a begging dog, pleading for my forgiveness and charity. My heart felt no ripples, no vindictive pleasure, no pity, only a profound calm and indifference. His current wretched state confirmed how right my decision to leave had been, and how solid my new beginning now was. Mike, I began, my voice as steady as if stating an unrelated fact. There's no past left between us. Not since the moment you betrayed me and dismissed the baby I lost. There was nothing left. His body trembled violently. As for your current predicament, I continued, it wasn't caused by me. It's the inevitable outcome of your and Chloe's repeated choices. Step by step, the law will give you a fair trial, and that cannot be changed by a single forgiveness from me. I stood up, looking down at his tear-streaked face. I heard your apology, I said clearly and slowly, but I won't accept it, and I won't help you. You chose your path. Now you must walk it to the end, even on your knees. Having said that, I no longer looked at his desperate, contorted face. I rang the bell to summon the butler. Show this gentleman out. I instructed the swiftly entering butler, then turned and left the drawing room without a backward glance, permanently isolating that failed, pathetic figure from my world. A few evenings later, I was sitting on the lakeside patio at our home, the setting sun painting the lake a warm gold. Ethan returned earlier than usual. He took off his suit jacket, draped it over the back of a chair, and sat down in the lounge chair beside me. We quietly watched the sunset, a warm and comforting tranquility flowing between us. He came to see you? Ethan suddenly asked, his voice devoid of discernible emotion. Yes. I nodded, not hiding anything, to apologize and beg us to drop the lawsuit. What did you say? I told him that he had to walk his own path to the end. I replied, turning to look into his deep eyes. And I don't have the right to forgive anything on your behalf. Ethan's lips curved upward slightly, forming a faint yet genuine arc. You handled it very well, he said. He paused, as if carefully choosing his words, then continued. At first, with the board's pressure, the insidious nature of that email, I genuinely needed to see how you would respond. It wasn't a lack of trust, but you have to be responsible for everyone. I finished his thought, showing I understood. In his position, pure personal trust sometimes had to yield to more complex considerations. I understand. His gaze softened, the golden light of the sunset in his eyes dispelling his usual sternness. But now, I'm very clear, he said. I married not just a woman I need to protect, but a partner who can stand by my side. Those words touched me more than any material gift he could offer. They signified respect, recognition, and true equality. Thank you, I whispered, gently placing my hand over his on the table. His fingers stirred, then turned, lacing with mine. A warm sensation spread from my fingertips all the way to my heart. The civil lawsuits against Mike and Chloe will be pursued by our lawyers. They will pay the price for their actions, he said, his tone flat, as if discussing a trivial matter. As for the company, it has already filed for bankruptcy liquidation. I nodded. This outcome was long expected. The marriage that had caused me such pain and despair, which I had poured my heart into maintaining, and that false man, along with his ambitious career, had finally turned to dust, no longer able to affect me in the slightest. I plan to reopen my art studio, I said, looking at him, revealing a plan I had been considering for a long time, not just dabbling as before. I want to build a real art studio, and perhaps, eventually, develop it into a small gallery. A flicker of admiration crossed Ethan's eyes. Excellent. Whatever you need, just tell me. This time, I want to rely on myself, I said, gripping his hand firmly. Under my own name, Lena. He smiled, this time his smile more pronounced. Of course, Mrs. Hayes is who you are, but Lena, that's even more truly you. Yes, I was once Mrs. Mike, a woman struggling in a failed marriage, betrayed and hurt. Now, I am Mrs. Hayes, enjoying a privileged life and powerful protection. But these titles no longer define me. I am Lena. I had endured profound betrayal and, by my own strength, exacted a precise revenge. I lost a man not worth loving, but in doing so, I gained clarity about human nature and unexpectedly found a more mature and reliable love, built on mutual respect and understanding. I rose from the ruins, not only avoiding a fall but instead ascending to a higher peak, seeing a broader landscape. My strength, my wisdom, my boundaries formed the backbone of my new life. The sun finally completely sank below the horizon, leaving a sky ablaze with vibrant afterglow. Night was coming, but I knew the sun would rise as usual tomorrow, and my world would no longer hold any shadows. I squeezed Ethan's hand back, and we exchanged a smile. The road ahead was long, but this time, I had no fear. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any thoughts about this story, feel free to share them in the comments section. Here is Roses and Love, sharing stories about marriage and women every day. See you tomorrow.